Biom. Bravo. Good to know.
I'm Lena. I'm from Serbia, also one of the current volunteers, and you'll meet one other volunteer that finished early from this project.
There used to be three of us, basically. But we will get into that. We are part of Biom's project Volunteering for Nature 2025, and that is happening through the program of European Solidarity Corps. We will cover all of that in detail. We have like the slides for it. But first, we will slightly introduce ourselves, where we come from, what we do.
So I'm Lena. I'm from Serbia, so pretty close by. I finished my master's in ecology before coming here, and I was kind of doing mostly stuff regarding herpetology. So I was dealing with frogs, snakes, lizards, turtles, and such. So this is a pretty big shift in the type of organism I'm dealing with. But basically, yeah, before I came here, I was kind of stuck in a 9-to-5 office job. It was kind of in the field, but it was something that I didn't appreciate doing because it was just without any field work, 8 hours a day with 2 hours of traffic after that. So I really wanted to do something more active. And yeah, this is a perfect opportunity because I never lived outside of Serbia.
And then there's me. I am Anastasis. I'm from Cyprus. I finished my bachelor's in United Kingdom, South Wales, with a natural history degree. Just an undergraduate, no master's. I am very much into dinosaurs, as some of you may know. Also a bit into pirates. That's why I wrote Aspiring Pirate, if biology doesn't work out. And before I came into Croatia, I was mostly working in a bar with part-time internship in marine environmental consultancy. Zero experience in ornithology beyond the basics, with some experience on the field. Therefore, I was really keen to try my hand in something new in Croatia. And our third volunteer that finished her project earlier than we did is Lucy. Lucy knows her background best. We don't know her background that well. But she was very into ornithology, very much into birds.
Yeah, she was also an aspiring lepidopterist, so she really loved butterflies as well. But before coming to Croatia, she was doing a lot of organic farm volunteering. And yeah, she also never lived outside of France, so this was a new experience for her. And now that she's back in France, she's continuing working also on volunteering on organic farms, but also continuing to entomology, as well as ornithology, which is her main thing.
Next. You can see how far we've traveled, some of us closer than others, but we all in a new country. And now, to get a bit more into the technical stuff.
Yeah, so this is kind of for us to explain to you how the whole process of applying to this kind of opportunities looks like. So if anyone's interested to go through this whole process, which we definitely would recommend. So basically, the kind of project we are on is the European Solidarity Corps project, which is in short ESC. And you can see there is a whole portal that you can find these kinds of opportunities on. Basically, it's all around the world, but it's mostly from these kinds of program countries. You can see which countries are applicable and from which country you can actually go to different opportunities. But it's for young people, so 18 to 30. Basically, the way in which you can find these opportunities is not only through these kinds of, to this specific portal, but you can also follow some different groups on social media, which are constantly showing different volunteering opportunities, as well as NGOs, organizations such as Biom, because Biom also shares these kinds of opportunities, and some others. So also the way I heard about this is through a student organization, which contacted my student organization. So the Croatian one contacted the Serbian one. And I found out about this European Solidarity Corps for the first time in my life. Also, there are the national agencies. So in each country, there is a national agency, which is basically a place you can come to or call to get more information and see what you as a person from that country are eligible to go to. And maybe Anastasis can say more about Salto.
Salto is a platform that young people have access to, but as ESC volunteers, you have more opportunities. It basically is a platform with many different trainings that you can attend to if you're looking to work with children, or your NGO is working more with humanitarian aspects, or it implements more art. There's a lot of trainings in different countries across Europe. And you apply for these trainings, if you get successfully into these trainings, all expenses are covered, traveling is covered, accommodation is covered, and you get very useful activities and knowledge that you can then implement into your project or use it later on to make your own projects in your own countries. Very quickly, I would also like to mention that even though we're volunteers, we have a lot of support from the European Solidarity Corps. We get a monthly pay, our accommodation is covered, our transport is covered. So even though we're volunteers, it comes as no extra expense to us. And in general, that's what ESC is really about, giving opportunities for volunteering without cost for the volunteer. Next, we have the process that we applied. This is the page that we both applied on a year ago. Basically, the different thing about BIOM compared to other ESC projects on the website is that BIOM requires a bit more of a procedure to apply. Specifically, we were required to fill in the application form, send the CV, and what else did we need to send? That's it. Whereas other projects, they just take your application with one click, but it's important to do some more research into the projects that you're interested.
It really depends on an association. How
Yes,
they approach.
like some will take people very openly, some would require a more strict criteria to choose people. For BIOM, this is one of those opportunities that you need to submit some extra things, except just showing interest. The process was pretty straightforward. We fill the application form, we get 2 rounds of interviews, and then we get selected. And applications, as we wrote, are open in late September. So if people are interested actually in joining what BIOM does, keep an eye out for it for next year, since volunteers have been selected for 2026. September 2026, applications for 2027 will open. So we urge anyone that's interested to look into it.
Yeah, so basically when you go into this whole process and actually get the opportunity you applied for, you have to choose your sending organization, which is basically an organization from your home country that gets to sponsor you in a way. They kind of prepare you for going there, offer training and ongoing support and mediation, as well as when you return, the reintegration part. And yeah, the hosting organization for BIOM, maybe you can go.
Hosting organization is basically what I slightly touched on, that BIOM is really the main factor that will help you adjust. It will give you the things to do. It will monitor your work. It's what you will mostly be involved with. Also, they cover all of your finances, your logistics, the reimbursements of the money you spent on travel. And the evaluation part is to evaluate your experience. And also very quickly, both organizations, sending and hosting, can also open up more doors for future projects. Sometimes you can learn about other ESC through your hosting organization or your sending organization, depending on the organization. So some things that happen to every ESC volunteers regardless where you go. First, soon after you arrive, usually within the first 2 weeks, you're invited on arrival training. Me and Lena did this. Every volunteer, I think, on ESC did this, where you are sent in a week workshop where you meet other volunteers. You learn about what European Solidarity Corps is really about, what your duties as volunteers are, what is expected of you, and also it's really good for building a network of volunteers. Like for me, some of my closer friends in Croatia, where I met in this on arrival training. For us, we went in March, but it really depends when you arrive. You will eventually be sent to this, and you will develop different skills, different networks, different social circles. Soon after that, not soon, a few months after that, depending how long your volunteering is, you will be sent to midterm training. Same idea, but more so after a long time that you can now confidently describe your experience and talk about it more in depth. It's more about reflecting, evaluating, giving feedback. If you have issues with your volunteering, how you cope with it or how you aim to deal with it. And again, it's a good opportunity for socializing and networking. I was lucky enough to be with the good friends that I mentioned before. So it's overall a good time to just spend with your friends because, again, the expenses are covered, the food is covered, and we got to visit different locations across Croatia. So it's overall a good time. Sometimes it can be a bit repetitive, but there are things to learn, and you can always have fun with your friends.
Yeah, so now to get to the actual part of our volunteering, which most of you are probably interested in. So basically, as you can see, there are the three main projects that we took part of. This is the Lastovo fieldwork as part of Life Tetide, the Bailey Visitor and Rescue Center for Griffin Vultures, which we volunteered in on the island of Cres, and Učka Ornithological Camp. And we're going to go over these three projects in more depth in the following slides. But here we wanted to mention some of the smaller volunteerings that we took part of, but also very important for us. So I would start with the quail night monitoring, which is basically the monitoring of illegal poaching of quails, where we listen to the sound luring of the quails and see if we can actually hear some. Then the rook nest monitoring took part in Zagreb for the most part, I think. Then we went to different neighborhoods in Zagreb and we counted all the nests of the rooks. Bird ID, I got an opportunity to take part in because it's a bird identification course that's held in Croatian. So as a Serbian speaker, I got to understand and actually participate. And I will also go over that in more detail after. The golden eagle nest monitoring was basically around the Dalmatian coast or Dalmatia. And it was basically going around different locations in the wild, in the nest, in the cliffs, and seeing if we can spot any golden eagles and active or inactive golden eagle nests. Then the griffin vulture nest monitoring is kind of connected to the project that we took part of on Cres. Actually, it is connected. It's basically going around the Kvarner Bay in a boat and seeing, trying to spot all of the different nest locations on the cliffs and counting the number of griffin vultures and griffin vulture pairs or chicks that we can spot.
Then another kind of monitoring we did in Zagreb, which is to show like we do field work both in the field and in the city. When we went in specific buildings that have a lot of reports of birds colliding with the glass, and for 2 months, we would visit 3 times a week to check if there's birds hitting the glass and report it digitally and try to also explain to the owners of the buildings that it's a problem and how you can deal with it and hopefully build towards a solution to the problem. Then Ravnikotari fieldwork. Ravnikotari is a region in Dalmatia. Just making sure.
Yeah, kind of north of Dalmatia.
Okay, on the coast, where we assisted a colleague that was mapping the area at the time digitally and wanted to visit it in person to collect vegetation profiles to see if it classifies a specific habitat type, specifically wet grasslands. Then symposium on invasive species. We recently attended with a colleague that was suggesting a new methodology that incorporates AI with camera trap footage analysis to basically shorten the time required to go through data. And we were lucky enough to attend and see him present as we assisted him with his work. We will also mention more about that later. Neretva Ornithofest is a weekend that happens in Neretva, which is in South Dalmatia. And basically very heavy focus on bird watching and ornithology, but also with some cultural aspects that we got to experience by being there. And lastly, the illegal bird monitoring is basically to, as citizens, that if we can observe if there is illegal trade with specific species that is not legal to trade within the wildlife trade spectrum. We can't give many details on that, but it kind of ties into the quail night monitoring and the same ethical arguments. Next slide. This is a map we have on our living room, and you can see every circled place is a place we've been to in these months in Croatia. Most of them for fieldwork or beyond related projects, some of them more for personal entertainment. But just so you can see that as volunteers in Biome, you get to travel to a lot of places, even beyond the ones that you expect sometimes. Next slide, please. Lastovo fieldwork happened 3 times this year. I was lucky enough to attend it twice, whereas Lucy and Lena went once. When I went the first time in March, also Lastovo is a chain of islands in South Croatia, quite inwards the Adriatic Sea. And it's a very an important place for the breeding success of two seabirds, the Yelkwan and Scopoli shearwater. Scientific names are on screen for anyone who is interested. And for the first mission to Lastovo, which happened in March that I was a part of, our main goal was to search for nests and report if these nests are used, if there is breeding success in there, if a bird is present. And this data would later be used in the following sessions, not sessions, but following missions, I should say, to Lastovo, that Lena will explain more about. And you can see some photos that entail how we actually do the nest search on these little rocky islands around Lastovo archipelago. And these are birds that nest in caves and crevices, and sometimes you require to put your face really in there to see it. Then what happens next?
Yeah, so basically next, in the next mission, as Anastasis called it, we get to go to the same locations and search for the same nest that they marked, and see if they are active or inactive. And as well, at this point, some of the chicks are already laid from the eggs, and we get to ring those chicks. Yeah, that's basically it.
We quickly mention that we also do some processes on these islands that involved improving the habitat quality for these seabirds by dealing with invasive species and population control of these invasive species. Mostly speaking about rats in this specific.
Is this where you set rat traps?
Sorry?
Rat traps, is this where they go?
Yes.
Go.
So the next one of the main projects that we took part of was on at the Bailey Visitor and Rescue Center for Griffin Vultures, which took part from June to September. Some were there longer, some shorter. But basically, we were there in the visitor center and dealing with the visitors who were coming there, explaining how it all works with the rescuing of the Griffin vultures, which is actually a part of the main project there. And also feeding, because it's a rescue center, so it has some of the young Griffin vultures there which are rescued. We get to feed them and take care of them when they come back from the sea with volunteers actually who rescue them.
And on that note, this is not a project that we're immediately part of, but we were lucky enough to work with them because they work at the same time as we do in the same place. This is a part of the life support project. You can see it here for anyone who's not here physically. I'm sorry, I can't show it to you. The project is called Life Support. It's exclusively focused on the Griffin vulture. And the project that was running in Thres while we were there is called Soup Patrol, and is basically a boat that goes out every day and searches the nests that we previously mentioned on the Griffin vulture nest monitoring, and makes sure that there's no birds that have fallen in the sea. And if they have fallen in the sea, it's a job of the volunteers on the boat to rescue them and bring them back to the rescue center, which we emphasize it's a rescue center. The birds are not meant to stay there entirely. They're only there until they recover and are able to survive on their own. We were lucky enough to participate with the volunteers of Soup Patrol, hence traveling a bit with the boat around Kvarner Islands and getting hands-on with the vultures when they needed to be rescued. I think that's all about Thres.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly...
Yeah, the last main project we took part of was Utka Ornithological or Raining Camp, which some of the people present here actually took part of. It's a 4-week camp where we put up nets, which are meant to catch the birds and the volunteers as well as the ringers. And under the supervision of the ringers, they're supposed to extract the birds from the nets, as well as collect some data such as measurements and weights and such, and ring the birds, which will then be used as data as soon as they potentially get trapped in another net and marked as well there. Did you want to add something?
I just want to add that Utka is a mountain in Istria, because I didn't know when I came, so I don't assume people would know. But no, we basically help the main ringers by writing down the data, providing help whenever they need. And generally, it's a great time. Just to mention, outside of like professionalism, people always told us that it's the best time of the year. I didn't believe them at first, but then I went and I do believe it now. And it's a great chance to socialize, to meet people, to be out in nature for a while, to decompress from like the pressure of everyday life. And it's overall a great time and good vibes overall. So next one. So beyond the fieldworks and all of these fascinating things that we got to do outside of the office, we had quite a few things to do in the office, which is not to say that they were boring. We actually had a good time with quite a lot of these tasks. Me specifically, I got to illustrate a lot of things because I am very fond of artwork. I got to also practice some more scientific data with mapping Griffon vulture dispersals. Article writing for Beyond's website, assisting with the previously mentioned colleagues' AI methodology, and social media, photo editing and photo taking, quite a few things that you do in the office.
I mean, basically, we took part in a similar types of tasks. I didn't do that much illustrating or article writing, but I will go over also some of my achievements, which are mentioned here as part of the work in the office. So you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is a slide that I wanted to show to represent something that I did and that was most valuable to me, which is developing my technical and analytical skills. So as mentioned in Učka, we collected all the data for the birds. So I got to actually analyze this data, which was later used in a report for this year's Učka camp. Also, I got to work on different kinds of softwares with colleagues who were, I was lucky enough to have to show me how to use them, such as the R program and time-lapse. This one, the time-lapse one, for those who are not present, is actually used for camera footage analysis. So this is the one that we actually used along with AI in order to develop this kind of new methodology, which was also published later on. And as well as a biologist, QGIS is relatively common to use, but then it's very nice to get to use it in practice, actually, and we got to use it for the habitat mapping task that was already mentioned. Yeah, as I mentioned, we got to participate in the 6th Croatian Symposium on Invasive Species, where our work was presented as part of this presentation you can read here. And also the data analysis that they worked on was published in a report on this year's Učka. Yeah. Then as well, something that was really important to me was that I actually finally got to drive after 6 years of not driving. So as you could see, we went all over Croatia and we got to actually drive by ourselves for the most part. Then the thing I mentioned also was the bird ID, so the bird identification course that took part this year. And as a herpetologist, I really didn't know anything about birds. And this was a very, very big step in me getting to learn a lot more about it in different types of habitats, as well as participate in another ringing camp on Vransko Lake. Yeah, that's it.
My personal achievements and opportunities, again, I also came from a background of not knowing much about birds, whereas now I can say that I know very little, but more than I used to. Beyond gave me the unique opportunity to publish and use up a lot of my artwork in official ways, I should say, such as the crowdfunding, or when we made a specific game in the start of the year, I got the chance to illustrate, and some of the other work I'm currently working on. For me, the time on stress and getting hands-on with vultures was an absolutely highlight of the year. I didn't expect to be that much into it, but it was quite a memory. Again, using my degree for actual scientific contributions in many of the things Beyond does. We mentioned different data analysis, mapping, and presentations. I was very happy that I can actually put practice into the things I enjoy. Language skills, very minimum, but I can understand a little bit of Croatian. I can speak a little bit of it, and I'm very proud of it, especially when I can order in Croatian and they reply in Croatian, which means I have fooled them with my Croatian knowledge. And lastly, my biggest highlight of the year probably was recently I got the opportunity, thanks to Beyond, to present in the Natural History Museum of Zagreb. And I got to present a topic that's very dear to my heart, which has to do with dinosaurs. As I previously mentioned, I'm a bit crazy about them. And yes, I couldn't have done this without Beyond. It was very vindicating. It was a very exhilarating moment for me. And some of you were there for it, so I think you saw how it went. Beyond that, I think it's very important to mention some other things about volunteering beyond just the work aspect and what it means to be ESC. And for us, it was very important to engross ourselves into like community, culture, engage with what's happening around us, like different festivals, different events, concerts, little flea markets. And we have like a small photo compilation of some of the things we've done. Some of the things here are in Zagreb, some of them are during field work actually. And on the next slide, same idea, but focus more on the scenery that we have seen. This is again from all across Croatia. And when we say field work, again, it's not necessarily just in nature. If people are into more like the urban side of things, you will get to see that as well to a big extent. And we have traveled like the entirety of Croatia. So we've seen very much of it, but there's still a lot to see. And lastly, again, the same idea of a bit of a photo collage. It's a bit of an homage to all the people we've met and all the people that we've bonded with. You can see some of our moments recently. We have a lot more, but this is a bit of a love letter to all the people that made this journey what it was. And beyond that, I believe we are covered. We have covered our bases, roughly speaking. So, Gina, if you may. Huzzah. That's all.
I can maybe stop the recording and then you can go on questions. You can also turn on the camera now, so maybe the people online can